Say today, and this article on Wednesday, 18 people die each day in the U.S. waiting for a vital organ or a tissue transplant. Every 12 minutes, another person is added to the national list. There are 93,000 people waiting for organ transplants. Quickly, Sally Sattel, who paid for all this?
My insurance paid, and I'm extremely grateful because I have now payment at a high percentage of the total cost of the immunosuppressant drugs, which are vital. And you have to take these medications for the rest of your life. Anyone who gets an organ from another person, unless it's an identical twin who has the exact same genetic makeup, will reject the kidney, or any organ, a liver, a heart. This isn't a risk. This isn't a possibility. This is definite. You will reject an organ unless you're on immunosuppressive medications for your entire life. And they are very expensive. They're about $15,000 to $20,000 a year. And thank goodness my insurance pays for it. Now, there's a very interesting situation, and a very problematic one, with people who are on Medicare. Now, there's actually an entitlement. The end-stage renal disease program will pay for anyone who's already eligible for Social Security, irrespective of their age. They will pay for dialysis for your life. They will pay for a transplant. Medicare will pay for a transplant, but it will only pay for 3 years of the lifetime that you need of these immunosuppressant drugs. So if there are patients who do not have private insurance, cannot demonstrate that they have the financial means to pay for the medication once Medicare ends after 3 years, a lot of medical centers will not proceed with the transplant because they can't be assured that the person will be able to maintain the medication and hence maintain the kidney. And there have been not a handful of cases of people who have been through the transplant, Medicare paid for, continued on the immunosuppressant drugs for 3 years, and then the money runs out from Medicare. Now, some hospitals can find funds, but others can't, unfortunately, and the person rejects the kidney, has to go back on dialysis, and Medicare starts paying for that again. It's really just a bizarre kind of arrangement.
Our guests this morning are Virginia Pastrell and Sally Sattel. We go to Tucson, Arizona. Thanks for waiting. You're on the air.
Good morning. This is a wonderful story. I'd like to bring to you one of the reasons I will not become a donor is in the state of Pennsylvania, where I was originally from. A little wrinkle occurred where the governor of the state, years ago, was diagnosed with kidney and liver, and maybe you're smiling, maybe you know the case.
I know the story, yeah.
Yeah, and he was moved to the top of the list right away. Okay, I will not get into something like that where people who are handpicked because the National Kidney Foundation says so, they control it. I think you have a great idea where people should be compensated and they can make a private deal. There's also the case of, I believe, Mickey Mantle, who received not one, but two livers because his failed because of alcoholism. Is that not true? And when you have this type of thing, and it circulates out here among the public, they become a little bit, they really don't care. And, as far as paying for organs, I know of hospitals in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they pay the street people out there for their blood. So it's kind of hypocritical, for blood donors. It's hypocritical when I hear this stuff from an organization like that who wants to control. And that's what it is. It's control. And I think that you're on the right track, and I think you should go ahead with this.
Thanks, Tucson. Yeah. Virginia Pastrell?
You mentioning Pennsylvania, there was actually, the state of Pennsylvania tried to put in a program where the state would pay actually directly to the funeral home some of the funeral expenses of deceased donors. It was either $500 or $1,000. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was something sort of more like a token of gratitude. And this was ruled that that violated the federal law, and they couldn't do that, and that they could only pay like transportation and accommodations for the family, which transportation and accommodations are an issue with living donors. That's definitely an issue for reimbursement. But, for a family that's deciding what to do, whether to donate organs for a loved one, it wasn't helpful at all. And there is this real anti-commercial, anti-incentive ideology behind this federal law. And I think it needlessly discourages people. A lot of people who need kidneys, talking about living donors here, are relatively low income, actually. Sally is very atypical. Most people are low to moderate income who have kidney disease. And a third of them actually are African American, which is wildly disproportionate to the population. Well, if your friends and relatives tend to be about the same income you are. And so, if somebody could receive, I don't know, I'm picking a number out of the blue, but $10,000 for donating a kidney, they might do that for a friend even, and it would allow them to take the financial hit of having to take time off work and whatever might be involved. People don't have simple, commercial motives or altruistic motives. In many cases, if we allowed compensation, it would actually allow people to act on their more humanitarian motives while also acknowledging that this is something of value that's being given.
We're running out of time. We only have about 12, 13 minutes. I think we need to ask our guests to come see us here when they're in Washington, and we can continue this discussion. We still have about, as I said, 13 minutes. Sally Satel, quickly, the backstory on how this found its way into USA Today.
Interesting. Well, I think it was sometime in July, USA Today had an editorial on this concept of paying for organs, or I should say how we could increase the supply. And in fact, that was written after Virginia and I and nephrologists and other folks put on a conference at the American Enterprise Institute. That was in June. In fact, we gave it the fairly dramatic title of Buy or Die, an examination of markets in reducing the organ shortage. And there was a reporter from, or someone on the editorial board from USA Today who attended, and then I think he had a role in writing this editorial. And I say role because his sentiment, I believe, was kind of he was sympathetic with us that we should try pilot programs and incentivizing. But unfortunately, the editorial came out very lukewarm. Talking about how, again, we'll go down a slippery slope and we can't commodify organs, this kind of thing, pretty uncourageous. And I talked to them, and I basically pitched them, that, well, why don't Virginia and I make our case for why it's, in fact, we think a moral imperative to experiment and to initiate some model programs to see whether or not this would work. I think every principle of economics would suggest you would certainly get more of a product if you offered some kind of compensation for it. But something has not been done, so we would have to see. Let's test it and let's build in the protections and let's see how it would work, and then ultimately expand it. So that's how it started, and they were very generous. They gave us the whole page, as you can see, and I was very gratified to be able to get this out. And the more we get it out, and as I said, this topic has become more and more common in the media and among transplant professionals as well. Those who at first were reluctant are now moving over to the side of really desperation. This is a crisis, and we have to innovate and try new methods of increasing the organ supply.
Sally Satel is a medical doctor, and she's a resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute.